everyone, we are currently in the middle of 2019 exam season and I am trying my best to get these paper 3 videos up in time for the psychology final exam on the 14th of June, I think it is. So yeah, for this video I'm going to be going through relationships, but I am in the process of making the schizophrenia, forensic psychology and issue and debates videos so that you're able to use them before your exam. And I will just remind you all again, the day before each of these psychology and sociology exams, I will be doing live streams to answer any of your last minute questions and then to also talk to other people doing the same exam as you. So yeah, let's get on with the video. So starting off looking at evolutionary explanations of partner preference. So anisogamy, I have no idea how to say that, but refers to the fact that male gametes, or sperm, are produced in large numbers with little cost, compared to the production of female gametes, eggs, which women don't have many of, and obviously there is quite a high cost to it. Intersexual selection describes the process by which a female chooses a male with desirable characteristics to reproduce. However, intrasexual selection describes the process by which males compete to access the fertile females who reproduce. So you have the intrasexual selection first, and then it'll move on to intersexual selection. Strengths of this is that Buss found that males want fertility and looks, whereas females want resources. However, it is culturally biased because a lot of the studies that took place on this were in Western areas, but also because different cultures are attracted to different things and see different things in each of them in potential partners. So looking at factors affecting attraction, looking at self-disclosure, physical attraction, and filter theory. I meant to change the title at the top because it was originally just going to be, but yeah. So the self-disclosure is the revealing of personal information to others. People disclose more as relationship develops. So Altman and Taylor believe that self-disclosure consists of breadth and depth. At first, you reveal a large breadth of information that is of low risk information. So at the beginning, you have a lot of breadth but not much depth, but this depth increases over time. And there are also 3 types of information. There's low, such as just your name, your date of birth, medium, sort of where you live and things, and then high risk, like your bank details or something. So Altman and Taylor found that unbalanced disclosure or too much disclosure can actually reduce attraction, and again it is culturally biased because the research only took place in the West. Physical attraction refers to the characteristics a person finds appealing, helping to form and maintain a relationship. Shackelford and Larson argue that we found those with neo-tenuous features, such as eyes being spread out and small nose, sort of similar to that of a baby, to be most attractive. And then the halo effect describes the idea that we associate personality to characteristics with facial characteristics. So, for example, Dion et al. Found attractive people are continuously rated as kind, strong, sociable, and successful. This is sort of basically suggesting that we see certain physical characteristics, certain physical traits, and then these traits are associated with how we assume their personality is going to be. And then you've got the matching hypothesis, which refers to the fact that we choose a partner depending on their rating compared to ours. So if we say rated ourselves a 6 out of 10, we would probably go for someone else who would be a 6 out of 10, and you wouldn't want to go for someone that's sort of 8 or 9 or even 10 out of 10 because there is a greater fear of rejection. And this sort of theory, this matching hypothesis, was sort of designed by Wolster et al. Support for this comes from Palmer and Peterson, who found attractive people are rated more intelligent than unattractive people. However, it is subjective. Obviously, everyone finds different things attractive. And then looking at filter theory, which is designed by Kirchhoff and Davis in 1962. This is basically filtering out potential mates. So the first filter is social demography, filtering out those of an unattractive race, gender, religion, and proximity, for example, etc., to produce a field of availables. And then the second filter is similarity, so filtering out those with different attitudes, values, and interests to form a field of desirables. And then the third filter is complementarity. When a couple becomes established and after 6 months of being in a relationship, they begin to think about if they fulfill each other's needs. If they do, then the relationship will continue. But after this 6 months, if they aren't able to fulfill each other's needs, then the relationship will most likely break down. This can be applied to all relationships, including platonic and romantic. And because Kirchhoff Davis didn't really, there's not a lot of focus on it being purely for heterosexual relationships, so it can also apply to homosexual romantic relationships as well. Byrne also found people preferred those with similar attitudes than those with different attitudes, which sort of links with the similarity filter. However, there is a historical bias. It was done in 1962, and then again cultural bias. Research was done in the West. Looking at theories of romantic relationships now, we've got 4 different ones on here: social exchange, equity, investment model, and phase model. So looking at the social exchange theory first, this was designed by Tybalt and Kelly. They focus mainly on sort of profit and loss, describing that each individual wants to maximize the profits of a relationship and minimize the costs. And essentially, a good relationship has lower costs and higher rewards. Comparison level is when we compare our rewards and costs of our current relationship to that of past relationships. If it is favourable, if our current relationship in this way is favourable to our past one, we are motivated to maintain this current relationship. Whereas the alternative comparison level is when we compare our current relationship to possible future relationships. If we feel we could do better than the relationship we're in, then we are more motivated to leave our current relationship. This social exchange theory has also influenced the equity theory that I'm about to look at, and also the investment model. And support for it is the fact there's real world application, so this can sort of be seen in relationship counselling. But again, there is cultural bias because a lot of the research takes place in the West. And then moving on to the equity theory, this was designed by Walster et al. And is an extension of the social exchange theory. So equity is basically when both partners gain similar profits and the relationship is perceived as equal and fair, although equity is different to equality because it might not necessarily be equal, but it can be equitable. So inequity and distress describes that if a relationship becomes inequitable, then an individual feels distressed and so are motivated to restore fairness. However, obviously, if this equitability is not restored, then the relationship will break down. And then inputs and outputs are used to directly compare to a balance sheet. So the relationship which must be equitable and balanced. Therefore, you'd want it in black rather than red as such a balance sheet. Dindier and Baxter found 49 strategies for equitable relationships, such as doing things together and talking about their day. However, it is reductionist. It makes relationships seem very, very, very simple when it is not that simple. Obviously, other things will cause a relationship breakdown rather than just inequity. Then looking at the investment model designed by Rusbolt, investment refers to what individuals put into the relationship and what they would lose if it were to end. So the satisfaction level describes that a satisfying relationship has higher rewards than costs, similar to what Tybalt and Kelly spoke about in the social exchange theory. And this satisfaction level is based on the comparison level from social exchange theory. Comparison level with alternatives is a judgment on whether a relationship with another person would be more or less profitable than the current relationship. And there are also thought to be 2 types of investment. So intrinsic is resources we put directly into a relationship, such as money, and then extrinsic is resources possessed during the relationship, such as children. I will also say that comparison level within alternatives is again similar to the alternative comparison level in the social exchange theory. Support comes from Lynn and Rusbolt, who found that females reported greater investment than men. However, there is possible research bias because a lot of the supporting research for this model comes from Rusbolt, who designed it, even if there are other researchers involved. And then looking at the phase model, this was designed by Dutt and sort of just talks about the process of relationship breakdown. So the first part of it is breakdown. So a partner becomes distressed as they realise their dissatisfaction with the other partner. And then you've got intrapsychic phase, where the individual begins to brood over their emotions and consider if they'll be better off single or in a different relationship. And then you go into the dyadic phase, where you tell the other partner about how you feel. The relationship can be saved if both partners are motivated. But however, if the relationship cannot be saved, then it will move on to the social phase, which is telling family and friends, making it harder to deny a problem. And then the grave dressing phase is the final stage, in which each individual of the relationship strive to protect themselves from looking like an unfavourable mate for other alternatives. And again, support for this comes from the relationship counselling, but it can be seen as quite simplistic. However, Duck and Rolly did add the resurrection stage of 2006, which is basically similar to the process of once you have a breakup, you go and get some new clothes, you get a haircut, you sort of reinvent yourself for another relationship. Looking at virtual relationships, so these are relationships formed via the internet as an alternative to face-to-face interactions. So you sort of find someone online to talk to, so like a sort of online pen pal basically, that you might not necessarily meet in person but are just simply friends with online. So they appear like real relationships but lack important aspects of relationships such as physical contact. And in terms of self-disclosure, we disclose more in a virtual relationship as we aren't embarrassed, so intimacy occurs quicker due to shared interests and attitudes. Because obviously, if you're talking to someone through the computer, there's not that traditional social environment there, so you're not embarrassed about what you've got to say. You just type the message in, and then it's said, and there's not as much emotion attached to it. And then in terms of gating, the virtual relationship allows for the absence of social barriers, so we are able to project our socially desirable self. So obviously, with virtual relationships, it's just between you and this other person, and society and how you want society to see you does not necessarily play into it. I think there might be someone else's name there, I can't, or maybe I'll just accidentally put and. But Hara found that the US participants associated greater disclosure with greater trust in virtual relationships, but Korean participants reported greater disclosure led to less trust. Also, I'm just going to say now, I have noticed a lot of spelling mistakes in this or slight issues, but that's just because I'm trying to make these sort of quite quickly and I just don't really have time to read through them and check everything. So I'm really, really sorry, but I hope sort of what I'm saying sort of makes up for that. There is also temporal validity for this, because obviously virtual relationships and making friendships and relationships over the internet is a fairly modern concept, because obviously computers have only been around for 20 to 30 years, I think, around that bracket. So obviously all the research is very, very recent. However, in terms of the research that's taken into it, there may be a social desirability bias, as it is often self-report, because people may not feel embarrassed when saying something to their online relationship friend person, but they can still be embarrassed about actually admitting that to people. So, and then lastly, looking at parasocial relationships, I hope you can read the text on there. But parasocial relationships are one-sided relationships that occur with media and well-known personalities outside of the individual's real social network. So basically, this is like saying that I love Zac Efron. He has no idea who I am, but I absolutely adore him. He's wonderful. And so that's a one-sided relationship because I have a lot of love for him, but then he has no idea who I am. These relationships can offer support, companionship, and acceptance. They are most likely to take place in 11 to 17-year-olds, and those with a lower level and standard of education are also more likely to have them. McCutcheon et al. Proposed the absorption addiction model to state 3 types of parasocial relationships. So you've got the entertainment social, which is basically just the general discussing socially about a group of celebrities. So just hanging out with your friends, talking about, or like back in the day when Zac Efron and Vanessa Hudgens broke up, you'd just be sort of talking about your friends about that. So that sort of covers the sort of general population, I would say. And one of the strengths that I have for that theory, or for that model, is that it does include everyone. So the majority of people will be in the entertainment social bracket for it. But then moving on is the intense personal, which is when a person becomes absorbed by an individual. So this is moving on from just talking about it to actually beginning to obsess over this person. And then you've got borderline pathological, which is basically when someone becomes addicted to celebrity and behavior becomes uncontrollable. Like a lot of directioners or one directioners. Obviously, a lot of them became so obsessed with the band and specific members of the band that they would just go mad. Like, I'm fairly sure I heard the story once about how someone went to Niall Horan's orthodontist and got his braces out of the bin, which is absolutely disgusting if it's true. But yeah, that's a sort of similar thing to borderline pathological. The attachment theory, sort of in terms of parasocial relationships, looks at Bowlby's internal working model and Ainsworth's attachment types. So types A and C, so avoidant and resistant, are most likely to have a PSR, as type A can opt in and opt out as they wish, whereas C has no fear of rejection. And these relationships can also help improve a person's internal working model because it helps improve their view on reality. So again, McCutcheon et al. Includes everyone, but obviously it is culturally biased because not all countries have this access to social media and this access to celebrities and things. So obviously it varies very much per country or per culture. So that is the end of the relationships video. I shall hopefully have, I've just completed the forensics PowerPoint, so I should hopefully have the video up in the next couple of days. And then I'll be working on schizophrenia and issues and debates. I may try and do other topics that I mean, I don't feel as comfortable doing the other topics because I did not study them myself. But I do have a revision guide now, so I can refer to that if I need to for making these videos. But I want to focus on the ones that I've done for the time being because obviously there's only a couple of weeks left until the exam, and I don't know if I'll have enough time to do that. But obviously, like, let me know down below in the comments or on any of the live streams that I do if there is a specific paper 3 topic that you want me to go over, and if there's a lot of need for it, a lot of subscribers want it, then I will try my best to get it up for the exam. But anyway, that is today's video, guys. I hope you really liked it. Hope you found it useful. And again, I'm really glad you guys are enjoying this, and good luck with all of your exams.